Hello, all my crafty people out there. It is time for our weekly project. If you haven't been here before, my name is Stephanie, and I upcycle clothing from my local thrift stores, and I either make new clothing or accessories. And this week is no exception. We have this beautiful Kelly green men's shirt, and I wear a lot of green when I can to school. It's one of our school colors. And this is 19 and a half neck, 38/37. It's a fairly large shirt, if I understand that correctly. It says dry clean only, so of course I threw it in the wash. It came out fine. It's a Daniel Elisa, I don't know. I only paid $1.50 for it because I caught it on $1.50 day. Originally it was $4.99 at Goodwill. I want to make another peasant shirt similar to my white one with the gold lace on the cuffs. And I'm going to use something a little different this time. I'm going to use some Swiss insert. I believe that's what it's called. Essentially, it's an heirloom kind of lace or entredeaux that you put in between the seams to seam together. It kind of gives it a little extra. And we may even use some eyelet on the sleeves. I'm not sure. But if you want to follow along, see how it goes, like, subscribe, let me know what you think, and don't forget to share. And I'll catch y'all at the table. Alrighty, everybody. Here is our big green shirt. There's plenty of fabric in this thing. And again, we're going to be making a peasant shirt. We're going to use our faithful New Look. So is it 6743? This is the one we used last time, and we are doing something close to the white shirt. Like I said, we're going to change it up with some, I believe this is called Swiss insert. It's got entredeaux on either side. We have some good old eyelet lace too, but I don't know if I've got enough of the one I like. I think this one's pretty. So this might go on the end. I'm not sure if we'll need that or not. But this is my old heirloom sewing pieces back from the day. First thing we need to do is prep our shirt. And if you've ever watched any of my videos before, you know we're going to take that pocket off because this is going to be in the way. And we're also going to take the sleeves off because we're going to have to reform them when we put them together. So let's get this off first. And yes, it's green on green, so it's going to be fun. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do, I have folded the front of the shirt in half by the button plackets. The button placket is the fold. And I'm putting on the front pattern piece. Now I'm leaving the edge. As any of you may know me from the past, I leave this edge so I don't have to hem it. One and done. So I am just pinning the front on. And it doesn't matter if you've got this facing in or out when you fold it. I have it facing right side out just for the fact that I want to make sure this button placket folds properly. And making sure that the hemline meets because you want your front to be even. And once I get this done, then I will do the same thing to the back. I'll fold it in half, use the fold, and put the back on. Now this front obviously would be two pieces if you were cutting the pattern and adding the button placket yourself. But we are not. We are saving ourselves that time by having the button placket already there. One more good thing about using these thrifted shirts, they come in handy for all the processes. So let me cut this out. Then we're going to do the same thing for the back. And then we'll start figuring out our sleeves. Okay, now that we've got our sleeves off, what we're going to do is we're going to cut off our cuff and we're going to split it up the seam side, the seam that's underneath the arm. So let's just clip off our cuff first. Because like the white one, I kind of want to keep this detail, this button part of the cuff as detail on the neckline. So we're just going to clip through, and I'm clipping as close as I can to this cuff fabric. All right, this is our sleeve. What we've got here is we've got the two sleeves, and I've got them right sides facing each other, so I can pin this little cuff placket together. I want these to match so that they'll look good on the top of the shirt. So I've got them pinned just to make sure that they don't move and they're matching, and the button is on top of the button. So that's perfectly fine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put this down, and I want this button placket, this little cuff placket, to be in the front. So I want it to be on the side with the single notch. That's the front of the sleeve. And when we fold it down here, you will see that we are going to be short this line. This is the line I want to get to. I don't want a full sleeve. I want like a 3/4 sleeve. But we're a little short, but we're going to make up for that with some other fabric. We're going to try and use the back of the shirt again to make sure that we get every bit of fabric we can out of this. Okay, we've got the sleeve top cut out, and you can see that we've still got this curve, but we need to meet this line. So we're going to have to add some fabric. We don't have to meet that line exactly. That's just kind of like our goal. And you can see this is uneven at the bottom, and this is curved and all that lovely stuff. But the important part is this is all straight. Now, a mistake I almost made last time was not making sure that this side and this side were even, were the same length. So I am going to fold this over like this. And the reason you have to have these even is because this is your underarm. This is what goes under your arm and is the seam that needs to be the same. So all of our corners are matching here. So now I'm going to take the good old handy dandy ruler. And it's okay, we're cutting a lot of this off. That's okay. What we're doing is preparing it for the extension, essentially. So we're going to cut this off right here. And then we'll have plenty of room to add to it. But again, make sure that side is even. Otherwise, don't work out too well. All right, now we have our sleeves. At least the top half of them. I can't open them. There we go. All right, now we need to add to the bottom to make them longer. And we're going to do that through a couple of processes. We're going to add a line of the Swiss insert. Then we're going to add a line or a piece of gathered fabric. Now, the gathered fabric, we don't have as much as we did last time on the other shirt. This is not quite as big a shirt. So, last time what we did is we took the back half back here and used it. And we can still do that, but the distance between these cut points and this top where it meets the shoulder it's not as wide. It's about 7, I think it's about 7 inches, 7.5. So we're not going to get quite as much ruffle out of this, but I think we're going to make up with that with the eyelet being a little wider. So let me cut this down and see what we can get out of it. Okay, this is what we've got left of the back, and I went ahead and pressed out that pleat. And again, from here to here is about 7.5 inches, something close to that. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold it And I think folding it gets us almost to 3 inches. So it might be more than a little 7.5. But we're just going to be able to get probably about 2.5, 3 inches out of this width, or this width, I should say. And of course, we already know it's going to be longer than the end of our sleeve, which is here. So this will give us plenty of gather without being too poofy. I'm not into poof. All right, I just wanted to show you the sleeves and how we're going to work this out. This is the top half of the sleeve. This is the part that's going to go and be part of the neckline. This is the front, single notch, back, double notch that will attach to the panels that are the front and back of the shirt. Now, we want to make it a little longer because we cut it short in order to accommodate what we were cutting it from. So, we're going to make it longer with this Swiss insert. And we're going to sew it on directly to these parts of the sleeve first, using the little entredeux holes right there. I'll explain how we're going to do it. I think I've done a video about it, but maybe not. So this sewn to this. This part we're going to sew to this wider eyelet lace. Okay, so this is going to be the fringe at the end of the sleeve. And this will go on to the bottom before we gather it. Once we've got this on the bottom, then we will run gathering stitches on this. The last part will be to attach this to this piece of entredeux or Swiss insert. I'm going to be using this. This is my old heirloom book from the Martha Pullen School. I don't even know if they do this anymore because I believe the company was sold. Martha Pullen, I believe, sold it. I'm not sure. But we have this nice little handy dandy cheat sheet. Oops, take off that one cover page there. That shows you all the different ways to sew everything from lace to lace, entredeux to lace, entredeux flat fabric, and entredeux to gathered lace or gathered fabric. So, oh, and lace to flat fabric. So we're going to use this as our guide. Let's go to the machine. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is attach the insertion that's got the entredeux on each side to the top half of the sleeve. And we're going to attach it right sides together. And I'm just going to run it off the spool. I'm not even going to cut it. And first we got to figure out which is the right side. And it's really just which side looks better. And I think it might be this side. So we're going to put it facing down. We're going to match up the edges. This one has a little piece of, anyway, doesn't matter. We're going to match up the edges like this. We don't have to pin it, but I'm just going to pin it to show you. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to run a standard 2.5 stitch, 2.5 length, right in the ditch between the entredeux and the side here. So right down here, we're going to run a 2.5 millimeter stitch, just a standard stitch. Then we're going to clip this down very close to that edge, probably within about 1/8 of an inch, if you can get it that tight. Then we're going to do a little zigzag over it. And I'll tell you the measurements of the zigzag in a minute. But let me go ahead and stitch in the ditch all the way down so we can get this entredeux added to the top half of the sleeve. Okay, I've got the stitch in the ditch as close as I can to the entree. Mine's not perfect. There are some spaces where I strayed a little like that. But basically it's there. Now I'm going to cut it down to about 1/8 of an inch. In other words, as close to that stitching as I dare. Can you see? I'm sorry, right there. So I'm cutting it very close to the stitching. Because what we're going to do next is we're going to put a little zigzag. The zigzag will actually go through this entree hole and over this edge. And we're going to do one that is 2.5 width and 1 in length. So it's a very tight little zigzag. That's why you want to get as close as you possibly can to that seam without cutting the seam, obviously, because that's what's going to keep it in place. Okay, we've got our 2 pieces sewn together, and the zigzag over this, essentially it goes over the stitching and over the edge. And we turn it up like this, and you still see your entree there, and you don't see any stitches. But what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch right down the edge, close as we can without stitching in the ditch, to catch the back end of this to make sure it keeps laying flat. I might go iron it first just to make sure it won't turn on me while I'm sewing. But we're going to use probably a little bit of a tight stitch on this. You could use your standard stitch, but the tighter the stitch, the prettier it looks. So maybe a 1.5. Okay, our next step is to add our gathered. This is pre-gathered eyelet lace, and that makes it fairly simple, other than the fact I can't find any real direction on how to do this other than if it was already hemmed. Well, ours isn't going to be hemmed. So what I want to do is I'm going to, if this had right sides, it doesn't, but I'm going to put right sides together, and on the lace, that's the more finished side of the binding. You see that's a little rougher. That's a little more finished. So I'm going to put these right sides together. I'm going to leave a little bit hanging off the edge down there, obviously. And I am going to sew from the eyelet side, just like we did with the entree. And I'm going to sew right in the ditch beside the binding on the top of this. So I went and ironed it a little bit so it'll hang as flat as possible. So right in the ditch, up against the binding of this lace with the edges meeting, and then we're going to do the same thing we did with the other. We're going to turn it in and top stitch the top. Okay, it's finally time to gather both of our edges on these ends of the sleeve. So we're going to take and run a 1/4 inch and a 5/8 inch seam down the edge of this piece of fabric for our gathering stitch. And we'll use, obviously, I've got gray in the bottom, so it'll be easy to tell the bobbin's going to be on the bottom of the fabric, on the wrong side of the fabric, and we'll pull the bobbin to make the gather. Once we've gathered it, then we're going to have to attach it to the other piece of entree on the top half of the sleeve. But it's not any different than attaching it to another piece of fabric. Okay, I've got one done. What I did is I folded my pieces in half and then again in half. So what I've created are these 3 points that I can match up with the 3 points on the sleeve. It just gives me some guidelines to make sure that I've got enough gathers between each of the little points. It helps you gather. You don't have to do that many spots. I just found it easier to do that. And I'm going to mark them with a little bit of white here, just so I know I can find them. when I am putting them together. This will come off, but not fast enough. So I'm going to gather this. First, what I found was I'm going to put them right sides together. So right sides together. I found that it helped if I pinned the first one in place, the center point, and then I just gathered from either side to accommodate that, like that. So then I'm just going to pull my bobbin threads and gather till I need to the point where these two match. Then we'll go over to the machine and we'll treat it a lot like we did the entree and the flat fabric. But in this particular case, we'll be going over this gathered piece. Okay, we're going to attach the ruffle to the entree that's already attached to the arm. And it's really the same. We're going to run a stitch in the ditch down beside the entree, and then we'll come back and do that really tiny little zigzag over the frayed edge, over the edge. It's frayed, obviously. And then we'll flip it over, top stitch it, and be done with the sleeves. Remember, our button cuff, the part of our cuff, which I did take the buttons off, I'm going to reattach them after we get everything assembled. We'll go single notch to single notch to the front. So front, right sides facing, we're going to put the sleeves on. Oops, did I get the right? Oh, no, I got the wrong one. This one, because this is the wrong side of the sleeve. And this one. So we could do it either way. We could sew the sleeves onto the front or to the back. It doesn't matter. But we're going to start with the front. And I am actually going to take these to the serger and serge these down. Then I will serge them to the back. Remember, the best way to tell, especially with a shirt like this where it's solid color, doesn't matter, left, front, back, whatever, is that hemline. That will tell you what the right side is. And yes, I have sewn that in the wrong way before. All right, now that I have the sleeves inserted into the front and the back, like that, now we're just going to take that side seam, and I like to go from the hem, so I'm going to go from the hem all the way up to the ruffled cuff and sew up that side. Okay, everybody, we have our sleeves in. They are completely in the body, so the whole body is built like that. You can see the shoulders. But now we need to put elastic in the neckline, which looks massive right now. But we're going to use our handy dandy, tried and true single fold bias tape to make our elastic casing for a 1/4 inch elastic. And all we have to do, now this is what single fold looks like. You see it's got a fold, it's folded towards the middle from each side of the tape. So the tape is this wide, and then they fold in each side to make a single fold on each side. So what we're going to do is we're going to open one of these sides like this, and we're going to stitch right down that crease where that fold is. And when we do that, then we'll be able to turn it onto the inside of the garment, stitch down real close to the edge, and make our casing. So I usually like to start in the back, and we're going to put it on right sides together. So see if I can get a little light here, help y'all figure this out. See this? I've done a lot of videos on this, so feel free to peruse. There's tons of them out there where I've used this bias tape. But again, I'm going to open one side, and I'm going to stitch down this fold line, and that will be my seam allowance. And then once I'm done, I will fold this in to become our casing for elastic. So let me get to sewing on this. Oh, and what I'll do for the start is I will do a fold, probably about a 1/2 inch, maybe not quite that much, 5/8, half, I don't know. So I'm going to fold it like this, and then when I stitch it down, I will stitch over that fold. So when I fold it in, that finished edge will be on the inside, and I won't have to do any kind of special tacking down because it will already be, it'll be finished because I'll have the fold on it. All right, I am at the end of my bias tape here, and I am meeting the folded edge that I started with. And I'm just going to run this over that folded edge and sew probably about a 1/2 inch, maybe a little more. It's completely what you're comfortable with. Just so I have this raw edge tucked underneath the folded edge, but I can still access it to put the elastic in. So do a little back stitch there. Now there are probably several different ways to do this. This just happens to be the way I like to do it. So I have extra here. I'm going to cut this off. I don't need all of that. Oop, my water bottle sounds like a bell. So now I have this folded edge. So when I turn it in like this to the inside of the garment, that will be the finished edge. All right, I am going to go stitch down this piece, and I'm going to stitch very close to the edge just so I have plenty of room to fit my safety pin, you know, my specialist tool, with my elastic through. All right, it's time to put elastic in this big old neckline. I have left the opening back where the folded bias tape is. That's where we'll insert our specialist tool, which will happens to be a safety pin. And I thought instead of doing the elastic, pulling, tying on, I'd just go measure the one I already made that I like. And I think it's about 26 inches all the way around. So I am going to cut this, and I usually don't pre-cut it, but I'm going to go ahead and cut it to be about 20, let's say about 28 inches, just to make sure I got enough, because it doesn't hurt to have a little extra. And you know, we all bought this 1/4 inch elastic during COVID and made masks, so I've still got a roll of it. Let's see. Oop, I don't have my scissors over here. So let's put on our specialist tool. Actually, let me get a smaller one. I don't like that big monster one. Like this. Take our specialist tool, good old safety pin, open her up, fold the elastic over, put the safety pin on it, and start running it through. Just gonna push and pull. You know the rules, or not the rules, the process. And make sure you hold on to the end because you don't want to lose it. And once I get through with all this, I will go sew over this elastic and this end, and we'll give it a try. Okay, everybody, this is what it turned out like. We got our nice flouncy sleeves, our comfy tunic, I dressed it up with a little bit of white jewelry today, white chain jewelry, vintage, of course. This is what I actually wore to school today. So I hope everybody enjoyed it. It's an easy blouse to make and change up to what you want to do with the sleeves. And it's a lot like the white one, but the Swiss insert was a new process, I think. So if y'all had a good time, if you want to like, subscribe, let me know what you think, and don't forget to share. And I will catch y'all on the flip side of our next project.